shout out to them because I've gotten so used to people just lying on my name on the internet and on TV and on hit piece documentaries that I just expect that anybody that's putting BAM on or that is allowed to put BAM on is really telling lies on my name. They did not. Actually, tried to put a lie on my name off screen, which we will get into, and they corrected it. So shout out to them. I might be checking out more of their channel. Let me click the subscribe. Ting. Okay. So Bam Margera has talked about the free BAM movement. Yes, he has. He has talked about me. He has mentioned the hit piece documentary, his confusion about it. So let me just play a little bit of that right now.
And you know, that was right when I met Lima. I'm like, is that helmet, or are you putting oleander in my tea or some shit? Are you somehow benefiting off of the death of Bam? Because, like, I was his guardian and we tried. Now my name is out there. Yeah, well, you changed your name 6 times, you shady fuck.
Well, speaking of Lima, we were talking about this a minute ago, that documentary that's about her. What did you think about that? That Curious Case of Bam?
Well, the curious case of me not knowing the fuck it was. But it should have been called The Curious Case of Lima because they barely showed me in it. But I'm very happy because I did not know what to expect. I mean, there was footage of me, body cam footage of 20 laser beam SWAT team machine gun saying drop everything at the hotel and put me in a mental institution. I thought that could have been on there. So I didn't know what to expect. And now when I realized it's the battle between BJ Investigates, who started the Free BAM movement, versus Lima, and her finding out all Lima's shady doings, I'm so happy that it got exposed, because I would give Instagram posts all the time, be like, FBI, take a look at fucking Lima because she faked an autopsy report.
So I'm going to be reading from the transcript here because it's hard to, like, I don't have all my technology and stuff, so it's hard to, like, play and pause and all that. So it starts around the 1 hour, 8 minute mark, and Bam is talking about his struggles with substances, his struggles with, specifically, I think, COKE type of thing, addiction. And he was saying, it got so bad that he would need to get off of a plane and, like, have it immediately. And he was admitting, that he definitely was struggling with that. He then gets into talking about having seizures. And he said and he said this on my podcast too, he never had a seizure in his life. Never had a seizure in his life, according to him, until he met Lima. So what's he saying? The shaman took him to the hospital. He woke up 8 days later on life support with a tube down his throat. The nurse was crying because she didn't think he was going to make it. And he's like, that's right around the time when I had actually met Lima, which I don't know if Bam's just, like, can't be bothered with time. But I think he had already known Lima for at least a year at that point. But the point remains, they were reporting, there was actually news articles that said that Bam Margera was pronounced dead. People were saying R.I.P. Bam Margera. Like, it was touch and go. And I did make videos on that if y'all want to check out my Bam Margera playlist. But he says, it was right when I met Lima. He's like, is this that helmet, the virtual reality aura helmet? He's like, is this that? Are you putting oleander in my tea, which is a known poison? Are you somehow going to benefit off of my death? He started to wonder these things. And he was speculating, like, okay, well, if something would have happened to him, was Lima just going to be like, oh, well, we tried to help him. Oh, well, and now my name is out there?
Are you somehow benefiting off of the death of Bam? Because, like, I was his guardian and we tried. Now my name is out there. Yeah, well, you changed your name 6 times, you shady fuck.
And Bam's so funny. He's like, your name's out there. You got 6 different names, girl. Why you got 6 different names? But that was funny. Good point. So then the podcast hosts ask him, what did you think about the documentary, The Curious Case of Bam Margera? The title of the documentary was. He said, it should have been called The Curious Case of Lima.
Well, speaking of Lima, we were talking about this a minute ago, that documentary that's about her. What did you think about that? That Curious Case of Bam?
Well, the curious case of me not knowing the fuck it was. But it should have been called The Curious Case of Lima because they barely showed me in it. But
he said, I don't know what it had to do with me. He said they barely showed me in it, but I'm very happy because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, there was footage of me, a body cam footage, 20 laser beam SWAT team machine and drop everything at the hotel, which I never saw that footage. I don't know if it exists or if they just didn't give me that part, because as y'all know, if you've followed my channel for a while, when I requested the body camera footage, they did send me the hotel footage, but not of inside the hotel room. So maybe that is where that happened. But I don't know. I never saw that on the body cam footage, but he's like, there's that body camera footage exists. And I'm glad they didn't put the worst of the worst on there. He said, they put me in a mental institution. I thought that could have been on there. So I'm glad at least they didn't do that. He said, but then I realized it's not Curious Case of Me. It's the battle between BJ Investigates, who started the Free BAM movement, versus Lima.
And now when I realized it's the battle between BJ Investigates, who started the Free BAM movement, versus Lima, and her finding out all Lima's shady doings, I'm so happy that it got exposed, because I would give Instagram posts all the time, be like, FBI, take a look at Lima because she faked an autopsy report.
And her finding out all the shady things Lima was doing. So I'm happy it got exposed. Thank you, Bam. Ting. He said, I was trying to tell the FBI. Autopsy report. Okay, Bam. Bam like consistently gets the details wrong on the Amanda Rabb thing. He gets it mixed up. He keeps saying she died from a seizure disorder, which is understandable because that is what Lima said. Lima said Amanda died from a seizure disorder. She actually, in fact, said that the cause of death was marked as a seizure disorder. It was not, but clearly people have been confused by that lie, even Bam. So Amanda Rabb's cause of death was marked as cardiac arrhythmia, not a seizure disorder, but Bam was just pointing out the inconsistency in the autopsy report and what Lima actually said. And then, I mean, also, you could also be more confused because we had Beth Karras running PR, it seemed like to me, for Lima, saying, I don't know what Lima was reading off of. I don't know what it could have been. Well, you need a freaking brain scan, girlfriend, because it's very clear they tried to make all of us, including you, think she was reading off the autopsy report. She was not. The title of the video should have said, reading an email that's not the autopsy report, then you got Beth Karras, not a doctor, trying to reverse engineer and do all this ironically, doing all this speculation running PR for Lima, jumping through hoop after hoop, not a doctor, saying, well, she was on gabapentin, and gabapentin is a seizure disorder medicine, so maybe it had something to do with a seizure.
4, 5, 6.
Baby girl, baby grandma, baby mama. No, ma'am. You're not a doctor, and you need to keep those opinions to yourself. You're on national TV. Anyway, back to this. Much more interesting than that. But basically, Bam's like, whatever. Like, it wasn't the Curious Case of Me by any means, but I'm glad it's at least on investigation discovery, because maybe something will get done about it, because I've been trying to tell the FBI.
Calls from the FBI would just take it in one ear and out the other. So now that this is on investigative discovery, yay, they finally might start looking into it.
Imagine somebody takes your rights away against your will, according to Bam. Locked in rehabs against his will, couldn't leave. When he would escape, he would be tracked down with a GPS. You're trying to tell the FBI. And they're just like, oh, he's just a kid. Because of the PR that people have run. Because of the media manipulation. It's just really, truly terrifying. It's open air prison. It's hell. And I'm never going to stop talking about it. Y'all can run 5 more hit pieces. I hope you don't, because eventually somebody's getting sued. But anyway, so then the podcast hosts ask him, can you talk about the virtual reality therapy? Aurora or whatever? And Bam was like, I have no idea. Again, he mentions the kitty cat in one eye, and then in the other eye, it was a T-Rex. And he's like, it just doesn't make sense. The hosts are like, but can you talk about it a little? What's it supposed to do? Bam's like, I don't know.
You were talking about the virtual therapy, the Aurora or whatever it is. Man, how was that?
It didn't make sense at all to me.
Yeah.
Like, with the T-Rex coming at me trying to eat me, and then a kitty cat licking milk, you're like, what the I'm going to go over there. You're on the right track. No shit, I'm on the right track. Why would I want to go that way?
Well, explain. Can you explain what the software, the virtual reality is? What is it supposed to do?
Don't know.
I think what it's supposed to do is track data, gather data, because they're just collecting data to try and make this technology work. But I have no idea. Just like, Bam, I don't know. Can you explain it? He's like, no, I can't. So he's talking about like how much he likes to watch little squirrels eat, which is so cute, and I agree. He said, I started having seizures left and right. So Clockwork Orange.
As soon as I met Liam, I started having seizures left and right.
So how happy?
Clockwork Orange. Yeah.
Somebody said, how happy were you whenever BJ Investigates decided to start the Free BAM movement? Bam said, I didn't know.
Well, how happy were you when BJ Investigates decided to start the Free BAM movement?
I don't know, because I wasn't allowed to look at it. You don't get internet and treatment. And Lima always said, there's this Free BAM movement thing. Do not look at it. Don't even get tempted. I'm like, what? I guess I won't. So finally, when I got out, I just randomly scrolled across a minute's worth of her. I'm like, that makes perfect sense. Then I watched the whole thing. I'm like, yes,
Lima kept telling me not to look at it. Remember when I was making videos about this like back in 2022. And I was like, someone's telling him not to look at these videos. Someone's poisoning him against me without him even knowing who I am. They were sending him on Steve-O, the Failed Clowns podcast. They were lying on my name over there. They were lying on my name in Adam Green Mason 22. And look how history has turned out for them in the last 2 years. It's not looking good. And I tried to tell them, keep my name out your mouth. Ask Steve-O how it all turned out when he tried to use my name for clout. Keep on going, give him something you can talk about. Anyway, this is how it's worked out for them. And I promise you, bet money on it. Go to Las Vegas and put money in the casino. Anybody who uses their platform to lie on my name will suffer a similar consequence, and it won't even be because of me. It'll be because of the Lord. But anyway, so Bam's like, I wasn't allowed to look at it. I had no internet in rehab, no phone in rehab, and Lima said, don't even look at it. Don't even get tempted. I'm like, what? I guess, okay, fine, I won't. And he said, finally, I randomly scrolled across like a minute's worth of her. And I'm like, wait, that actually makes perfect sense. Then I watched the whole thing. I'm like, yes, she bought every body cam footage, every 911 call, and I did. I had to pay money for these things. I have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars covering this story because of the lawsuit. If I would have just never covered Free Bam, never covered Amanda, I would have been way, way better off financially. Way better off financially. I've lost substantial, two law degrees worth of money. This has never been to make money. Never been to make money. It's to do the right thing because I'm not in support of slavery and I'm not in support of liars.
Double crochet
That's
on
why.
the third
That's why.
chain.
So Bam's like, I even asked her, why are you doing these? Trying to clock bank? She's like, no, I just want to get to the bottom of it.
She has bought every body cam footage, every 911 call made of me or for me or to me or whatever, and got to the bottom of it. Yeah. And I asked her, why? Are you trying to clock bank? She's like, no, I just want to get to the bottom of it.
She's a lawyer.
Yeah.
So she knows how to do the investigation stuff.
Yeah. Well, she went to law school, so she knows the drill.
Yeah.
She's a lawyer. So one of the guys is like, she's a lawyer. Bam's like, yeah, she's a lawyer. She knows how to do this investigation stuff. And Bam's like, well, yeah, she went to law school, so she knows the drill. And then somebody off camera, I don't know who it could be. Somebody wrong off camera is like, she's not a lawyer. The whole crew on set, the whole on-camera crew plus Bam were like, yes, she is.
Yeah, well, she went to law school, so she knows the drill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she's not? I thought she was a lawyer.
No, she is.
She
just doesn't practice.
She says in the documentary that she took the New Jersey bar.
She did.
Yeah.
So you know what?
And the third chain
I am so used to
from the beginning
being
of the previous
defamed,
row.
attacked, harassed, and truly lied about, that it was like, I felt like I woke up in a new reality. That there was not one, not two, but 3, 4, 5 grown men. Usually the people that looks like that's running PR, is lying on my name. She's a failed lawyer. That's what Krusty Lynn Margera said. That's what Steve-O the Failed Clowns. I'm not a failed lawyer, okay? I'm not gonna get into my resume, but just let it be known, I made in the top 96 or 7% on the LSAT. I went to a top 5 law school in the world.
See what that
Graduated
looks
from that law school, not even at the bottom of the class, and passed the bar on my first try in a pandemic, unprecedented way that they administered the test, and hired as a lawyer, practiced as a lawyer. The reason I left being a lawyer is because they wanted me to hide the truth. I found out very early in my career, Britney Spears' business manager hired that law firm to try to silence me. So I guess, Steve-O and Krusty Lynn Margera.
I don't understand what you're trying to tell me.
That you lie and conceal the truth.
All right.
I did fail. I did fail, I guess.
Picture doesn't make any
But I guess
fucking
that's better than going to
sense.
circus school and not being able to get a job at that circus where I went to the circus school. Anyway, whoever was off camera talking about she's not a lawyer is mistaken. I'm not a practicing attorney, which thank you, one of these guys did. So one of my new cousins that I just found out about did say thank you. Anyway, yes, thank y'all. Thank y'all. Really, truly, I appreciate it. I'm so used to people lying on my name. Yes, I did pass the New Jersey bar. And someone's like, she does well. She's a very popular YouTuber. I do think that people think like YouTubers make a little more money than we do. Like, I don't really have sponsors, and any money I make on YouTube is just straight up from ads. And in my new channel, my new travel channel, one of my videos got age restricted just immediately But then I appealed it and it got age restricted. But I strongly believe it's because it got mass reported, which is incidentally one of the services that it appears Jed Wallace can do. I'll get more into that later. Actually, the next video I'm going to be recording is my new feelings on Blake Lively. I have some updates. But yeah, and then the other guy's like, very ironically, he's like, I'm just a simple country boy. I don't know anything about these highfalutin podcasts. I'm like, sir, you're hosting a podcast with 160,000 subscribers. You might know a thing or two with your fancy mic. But I do see what they're saying. He was kind of just saying, like, I never heard of that person or whatever, which is fine. And then one of them, like, oh my God, I love these guys. Y'all go subscribe over there. One of them's like, she has a pretty good podcast. I'm like, again, I'm so used to these, like, destined Dern types, you know, like, if they say anything at all, lying on my name and defaming me and trying to make me look bad. And it's like, you know what? I think it's really withstood the test of time what I did. You can't defame me and lie on my name no more because it's pretty obvious that what I was saying was right. It's pretty obvious that Bam agreed with what I was saying, and it's pretty freaking obvious that Bam is doing a lot better. He's claiming he doesn't do any more of the illicit substances. I don't know. I mean, I'm not holding his hand. I'm not running drug tests on him. But importantly, he did say on the same podcast, finally, the thing that made him wake up. It wasn't going to the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the 10th rehab against his will. It wasn't that. It was exactly what I always said.
I don't get it.
If someone is disturbing the peace to an extent that they are committing a crime, you should put them in handcuffs in the back of a police car and bring them to jail. If someone is committing a crime, they should go to jail. That's what I said. Bam went to jail. He went to solitary confinement for, I think he said 8 days or 10 days. He said that's all he needed. He never wants to go back there again. He said being alone in a room, people were slipping him a little piece of caramel candy and it was like the happiest day of his life. That's what it takes. Do I think that I want people to go through that? No, it sounds horrible. Do I want to go through that? Honestly, I might sign up for something like that. I was thinking about doing like a 10-day dark room retreat where you can't even see light for 10 days. So I might, I put myself through these, experiments by myself. But that's my choice. Bam Margera made a choice to break his parole, to violate his parole. And guess what happens when you do that? You go to jail. Up until then, Bam had never had to truly suffer the consequences as everyone else does of his actions. And now that he has, he'll tell you he don't want to go back. That's what always should have happened. And you know what? I love Bam Margera and all of that, but if he's committing crimes and he is causing a ruckus out in civilization and civilized society, then that is how he should be dealt with. I do not think that he should be stripped of all of his rights and locked away indefinitely in a Florida rehab by Stephen B. Timmer and Lima Mora Takali Takwali Yevremovich. So it just looks like I've been right about everything across the board, and it will continue to happen. That's all I really have for right now. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, meet. Okay, bye.
Oh yeah, yes, I finished my skirt a while back, or shirt a while ago. Here it is right here. Since finishing that, I've finished a shawl. I sewed a skirt out of an old curtain. And then I started crocheting another type of skirt that I did half of yesterday, and I'll do the other half of it when I finish this vest. But I'm taking Elliot out of town. Josh is coming with me because I don't really want to go that far by myself, and I think it would be fun for Elliot to have both of his parents with him for this awesome experience that we're gonna go do. But I'm taking Elliot out of town on a trip with Josh, and I want to have a new vest to wear with my new skirt. So I'm going to get my bus tomorrow. So hopefully getting my bus tomorrow. We're going there tomorrow to get my bus. And the only thing that will stop us is if the bus won't come for whatever reason. But so we're going to get my bus tomorrow. And while I'm in the car with other people driving, I'm going to try and finish this thing. So yeah, so here's the half of the skirt that I finished today. This has, from every one of these little thingies is like fringe, tons of fringe, but I ran out of this color, so I gotta figure something out, but I don't care really about that right now. This is the original one that I made. I fucked up on, and it looks like green pubic hair, so I scrapped this one. And then this is the shawl that I made to go with my skirt that I made. So I've got myself a shawl. It works so good. Ooh, a rose garland. That sounds pretty. If you watch the video that I live streamed last night, you'll see the skirt that I made. I'd show it to you, but it's not right here, and I don't want to get up again. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, yeah, 7. Okay. Fasten off and cut. Okay. Okay, and then make another one just like it. No one will ever notice. These fucking cinch bugs are getting on my nerves. Bro, you did it again. Ooh. Fucking stinky. Do that. I was literally counting the whole time. I was literally so careful. Yes, I will be moving back into my bus. I buy patterns off of Etsy, or I find free patterns on Ravelry or YouTube. I gotta call Elliot back. FaceTime audio, Grandpa Josh on speaker. No, I'm gonna be driving my bus. Hi, baby. I'm on a live stream, so crocheting. What's up?
Okay. I was just
All right, sorry, I was on the phone with Josh and Elliot. I didn't want to discuss the details of our travel plans publicly because one, Josh was like, dude, these people have literally nothing better to do. They'll call the places we're going and fucking try and ruin it, trying to hurt me. They will inevitably do something that will fuck up Elliot's good time. So I don't want to discuss our exact travel plans and what we have planned. We had different plans last week. We were going to go take him to something, but it didn't work out. And they're closed. They're done now, so we can't do that. And so I'm going to take him somewhere else to do something else. I was going to take his ass, but I just could not afford the gas. But I was really considering renting a car and taking Elliot to Long Beach, California, and going to see the Queen Mary and stay in the hotel. Boy, I was thinking about it so hard. But it was just like, it's like 900 miles, and I just couldn't, I don't want to spend that much money on gas. It's like 300, 400 bucks. So we'll do something closer. I'm gonna be driving south almost 2 days in a row because I gotta go to. I'm going to get my bus tomorrow, and then after I get my bus tomorrow, I'm turning around and doing it again on Saturday or Sunday or whatever. Chain 2. Did I do the right amount? No, I almost didn't. Josh was like, I'm so excited. I can't wait. This is going to be so fun. And the thing that's really cool is I was going to do this with Elliot by myself. And when I first broached the idea to Josh, he gets like, I don't want to say pissy, but he gets physically uncomfortable at the idea of anything new outside of his comfort zone. And so like for the first like day or two that I was talking about this, he was like, no, I don't want to, no. I don't think this is a good idea. He's like, oh, you sure you want to do that? And, trying to kind of dissuade me from doing it. And I was like, dude, I'm doing it. I'm taking my kid. Like, I don't normally have the opportunity to do anything like this. And so I really want to take, like, me and Elliot used to live in our van. All we did, literally every day of the week, is travel and go do cool shit. And then I bought that property and our life became that. And so it's been 4 years since I was able to do adventures with my kid, and taking him on that hike that we went on, like, I don't know, the week or so before he left, it reminded me how much fun we have together out in nature and out in the world doing stuff. So the only problem is that, like, I don't like going and doing stuff when I don't have my house with me, because it's a nightmare, man. Like, driving to somewhere, driving all the way back, like, I don't like that shit. I want to go to the place and I'm there now for a day, maybe 2, I don't know. But I don't like having to drive home. That's why I really don't go anywhere, is because the idea of driving home is a nightmare. And if I'm on my way home from work, if I'm about to run out of gas, I'm probably going to run out of gas because I won't stop. I don't like stopping. I want to just get home. But if I have my house on my back, like the snail that I truly am, it's not an issue. And it's a lot easier, and more enjoyable to do fun things, like stay the night places or go on adventures. Like if I had a car that we could like sleep in without being icky or miserable, you better believe that my ass would have already been to the coast multiple times. But it's just not fun when you're cramped in a car that has no space. You can't like lay down and relax. God, dude. And Elliot has no clue. Like, he has no idea what we're doing, really. He thinks that, I mean, as far as he knows, really, it's a work trip that I have to take, and I don't want to go do it alone. So I offered to pay Josh. Like, this is the most realistic thing I could think of that that he would believe without question. But I told I'm paying Josh to go with me because I don't want to go by myself. And like, he knows his dad's not going to just go, but if I like offer to pay him some money, you know, he would do it. And because we've done trips like that before with his dad, like when I went to buy my RV, it's like a believable narrative. I was starting to have some guilt though, because like I totally just like lied to him about where we're going. And so I was thinking it like, I've never lied to Elliot, like really ever. So like that was like one of the first times, if not the first time, that I've just straight up lied to his face. And I'm gonna have to like be like, I'm so sorry for like lying to you, but I really wanted you to be surprised, so I had to do it. Yep. Yep. Yeah, Roxanne is totally like counting on me just like giving up and being so exacerbated with like the situation that I accept her offer of $10,000, which she's like seriously delulu if she thinks I'm gonna take $10,000 for my share of the property. Like that's not gonna happen. She keeps telling people on the internet that I've lost my property because I didn't pay my taxes or whatever. We haven't even owned the property long enough for the government to seize the land due to non-tax payment, if that was even the case, which is not. But, you know, she's just got to make it seem like she's somehow in the right. I have text message exchange with Roxanne that said specifically, with our sale arrangement, that I am not to pay any taxes, that she's going to pay the taxes for this last year or whatever out of the sale cost that she pays me, right? So like I get my money and she pays the taxes. And was willing to take a little bit less money to make sure the whole process goes smooth. But I have all that in writing. So I'm not worried about her trying to be a snake and finagle things in some way, you know what I mean? I know she's going to try, I know she's going to try to snake me and finagle it. She's going to try to just essentially find a scenario that makes it plausible, possible, whatever, for her to just walk away free and clear with all of the land. And that's why I had to leave the property, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, one day she would kill me so that she could just inherit all of the land. And, I don't go out that easy. I still can't believe that she like is the kind of person that she is, who would even like do the things that she has done and plans on doing or considers doing. I cannot believe it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm always super surprised when people like show their true colors. It sucks to be a person who is trustworthy in Oregon. Oh my God. So like you see people who are like all Grateful Dead and fam this and, you know, ooh, peace and love and community and the Grateful Dead. You better watch out for if they people are listen to the Grateful Dead, like that is their like semi-cult religious obsession is the Grateful Dead. Be weary of them. Be weary of the Wooks. For real. They're lying, cheating, manipulative scoundrels who think it's funny to do others harm. So you have fun with that. And the funny thing is, I never really liked the Grateful Dead. They have some okay songs, but like, I never understood the like mania where people like just like dedicate their whole lives to the Grateful Dead. Something about that just screams cult to me. And it makes me think like that Grateful Dead is a fucking, I mean, I already know this, that they are CIA operatives and stuff, but like it's about mind control and shit like that, and don't want it, don't need it. I see through that shit. Whenever I find out someone like today, after knowing Roxanne especially, and the people she surrounds herself with, and the people who I knew independent of her, who coincidentally turned out to be her like friends or friends of her friends, and it's just like, and the experiences I had with that person or what I saw that person doing to other people, it made me realize that like if someone is obsessive like with the Grateful Dead like that, it tells me a lot about them. Kind of how like when someone says that like Fauci is the science, you know? I immediately have like a like about them immediately. And I've always had it too. That's the funny part is that, but I stifled it and I put it to bed when I moved here to Oregon because literally every person who I interacted with, friends and business, had dreadlocks and were Grateful Dead people. So I tried to drink the Kool-Aid, you know, just to kind of like make money and be in the environment, you know, or whatever, but this is not really for me. The people suck. The music kind of sucks too, if I'm really being honest. It's okay, like the songs are well constructed, but like, I mean, there's only so many times you can listen to a 20-minute fucking noodling session. Like, unless you're on drugs, unless you are high on psychedelics, it is difficult to imbibe that all the time. I would put the cap on my truck, and I probably will, but I still can't sleep in the bed of the truck. It's the windows in the topper leak, and so it's always like mildewy in there and nasty. Before I took it off, the back of my truck was nasty. I think this vest is going to be too small for me. I don't think it's gonna work. I think it's too small. This is like a doll size right now. So we'll see what happens as it grows, but I just don't see that being the back of my shoulders. Like, if these are supposed to be straps that go from here to here, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, my eyes, or maybe I'm smaller than I think. I don't know. But I just feel like this is not the correct sizing is what I'm seeing on the thing. But we'll see once we get the whole thing together. If it doesn't work for me, I mean, I guess I'll put it on Elliot or something. Dude, Orly, go lay on the floor if you're hot, bro. I'll just sit there and pant. I'm cold. I want the heater on. He's just gonna sit there and pant. Be miserable. At least he's not right in front of the frickin' heat source this time. always forget to put sound on. I get sucked into what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, well, when I finish this row, I will turn something on. And then, like, 15, 20 rows later,
This is an era of internet history that most chronically online people are probably aware of to some extent. In my mind, it's probably one of the most bizarre cases of cancel culture ever, not because of why people got canceled, but because of how we got there and what happened afterwards. In this story, no one is really innocent. Everybody did some messed up shit along the way. I encourage you to also watch the videos that I linked in the description, which provide further context and display evidence that I reference in this video. So, let's start out by discussing the focal point of the video, Shane Dawson. Shane Dawson was one of the first major players on the YouTube platform. And the thing with Shane is his downfall was inevitable. He's gone through various eras over the course of his 10+ year long career and has had multiple channels, but the foundation of his fame was built upon these skit videos. And in these skits, he would play characters, put on costumes, wigs, makeup, etc. But the characters were very problematic. He did in fact do blackface, perpetuated harmful stereotypes against people of color, people with disabilities, said slurs like the N-word. He would have characters that are inappropriate to children. There was a lot of content related to sex in general, just like very vulgar, raunchy stuff. Apparently,
so you mean just like vulgar humor?
Was that it's like a fucked up TV show where there's
people
no
are so
censorship,
weak and
no
whiny
rules,
they can't
no
handle
He was around
a
20
couple
years
of
old when
fucking
he started
racist
making
jokes.
content, and
Like,
I personally
I'm
think
sorry,
that he was
but
old enough to be aware that this type of
cliches
content
come
was
from
harmful,
somewhere,
but
and
he didn't care because he was getting praised for it.
sometimes
That's
it's
not
funny.
to say that this
Orly,
type of humor was acceptable
what's wrong?
among the general public at the time, but I think that the
Go
people
get some
who enjoyed
water.
his content were either A,
Go down.
genuinely racist or
Get
problematic,
down.
or B, too young to recognize the harm in what he
Get
was doing.
down.
Shane didn't get shit for it at the time because he found/created a like-minded community
I wasn't
that
talking to you,
appreciated
Mama.
his videos. So I mentioned that the premise of Shane's channel was that he wanted it to be like a TV show or a TV
She has
channel.
not
That
wanted
was
to go
kind of
outside
because Shane
at
wanted to be
all.
involved in the film
I'm gonna have to
industry
get her a
and
litter
involved in
box
Hollywood. That was his
because she's
dream.
gonna
And as one
struggle
of
to
the
go
first
potty.
successful YouTubers, he actually received an opportunity to do
You're
just
standing
that.
on my thread.
But before we get into it,
What
thank
is
you
that?
so much to GameLoft for sponsoring this video. Carmen Sandiego is back in this incredible game that's now available on console and PC. They so
Better not
kindly
have
sent
any
me
more
this
ticks
amazing
on
gift
you.
box to get in the detective mood. The blue light pen from the box reveals a series of clues, eventually leading me to discover that the bottom of the box contained a mystery item all along.
God,
Whether
I
you're already
fucking love
familiar
you
with the
so
franchise
much.
as a longtime fan, or are just being
I love you
introduced, the
so
game
much.
offers fun, adventure, and
I
learning
do.
for everyone by combining nostalgic Easter eggs with fresh, modern gameplay.
Thought
And
you were
what's
gone.
super cool is that for the very first time in the history of the franchise, you'll be able to play as Carmen herself as you explore challenging puzzles in this new 3D world to ultimately outwit and capture the vile operatives. I really love learning about the lore of Carmen as a new fan and becoming immersed in the world of espionage and detective-based gameplay. And my personal favorite elements are the puzzles because you have to be really strategic in your decisions. If you make the wrong move, you'll lose valuable time, and time is very much of the essence in this game. Rediscover the thrill of solving mysteries with Carmen Sandiego. Click my link in the description or scan the QR code to dive in. Thank you so much again to GameLoft for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it. So the television channel Stars created a filmmaking experiment documentary series called The Chair. They invited Shane Dawson, someone who is, successful on YouTube but has no filmmaking experience, and then they invited Anna Martimucci, who is a traditionally trained film student, but her name, was unknown. That's to say they were both first-time directors, and they were given the same script/concept and $850,000, and they were both, asked to create a movie. They would then show this movie, who had the same building blocks, but different interpretations to, audiences in theaters, and whichever one was received better would win, I think, more money and just win the show. Now, this show, The Chair, was created by Chris Moore, who was a producer for the movie Good Will Hunting. Chris was the executive producer of the movie that Shane made through The Chair called Not Cool. Zachary Quinto was also a producer at one point on Shane's movie Not Cool. And Zachary, if you don't know, played Spock on Star Trek, among other things. And I'm telling you this because I cannot stress
That's the guy from
how much
Heroes.
this opportunity.
That's it.
Let me give you the highlights of what we saw in this documentary. Now, I understand it's television and they want to make people look bad for the drama, but Shane was being a menace, objectively speaking, editing aside. He was not collaborative, couldn't take criticism, and then when things wouldn't go his way or an idea of his wouldn't work out, he would turn around and blame his own crew even though he wasn't receptive to their suggestions in the first place. He looked extremely immature and unpleasant to work with. He had tantrums multiple times where he like walked out. He was like, I can't do this anymore, even
It's
though
literally
they
Shane
were on a
Dawson.
time
That's his
crunch,
brand,
as,
though.
film productions usually are. He was
You're
working with
just
his
naming all the
friend
things that he
slash
does in his
podcast
videos.
co-host named Lauren Schnipper, and he was awful and rude to her throughout the whole thing, yelled at her, only for him, get this, only for him to say at the end of the show that he has in fact been open and honest and hasn't yelled at anyone throughout the whole process. And she was like, yes you have, bitch, there's video proof. Shane changed, he made tweaks, I think, to the initial script to make it way more raunchy and edgy, like his YouTube skits, and then he tried to take credit for the screenplay because of his edits, which is a shitty thing to do, and it's like there are protections put in place so that that doesn't happen to screenwriters. And here's the thing, though. So he wanted to take credit for the script, but his script was so bad that nobody wanted to be involved with the movie at all, including actors who usually jump at the opportunity to be, on anything to get experience and whatnot. So that really speaks to how bad this script was. And so, in response, instead of being like, oh, hey, maybe I should change the script, Shane was like, how dare these actors not jump at the opportunity to work with me? You don't have the luxury to be picky. He said something along the lines of, like, you're broke, you're waiting on tables, or something to that extent. He was just, like, being so incredibly, like, insensitive and out of touch. And then on top of that, he had, crew who was already working with him who were starting to feel uneasy about the prospect of doing so because they looked up his YouTube channel and didn't want to associate with him because of his content. Literally, the whole experience caused Zachary Quinto to leave the project midway through because he could tell it was going to be a shit show, and it in fact was. In this documentary, some person actually said, and they were like talking to another member of the crew, this is the quote, have you watched his YouTube videos? He's a racist, homophobic, awful human. It's also not even funny or done well as the thing. So he not only directed, but he also starred in this movie, which is a very ambitious thing to do because as a first-time director, it will probably hurt the quality of the movie with having to juggle so many things that you've never done before. On top of that, Shane is a very insecure person, and this is not me, projecting that onto him. This is not me making an assumption about him. It's self-admitted. He shared that he's very self-conscious about his physical appearance. He shared that he struggled with body image issues. He's self-conscious about the way his personality and character are presented, like, to the public on the internet. And those are hard things to struggle with, and it does illuminate why he acts the way he does sometimes, but it does not make it okay, though. Actually, you can see this very struggle with insecurity in the documentary because there's a point where he didn't want to be present for the test audience, mind you, which is crazy. People were brought in to watch your movie to give you feedback on how you can make it better, and you're not even going to listen to any of them? Correct. He could not handle, like I said, receiving criticism for his film. He was backstage and said that he could hear the laughs and tell that most of the jokes landed, and you know what? That was good enough for him. That was enough reassurance for him. Well, apparently he was correct, because guess who won? But Shane himself said it had nothing to do with the fact that he's one of the most popular YouTubers or the fact that he told his audience to watch his film. And Shane would never lie to me, so I guess that must be the truth. Objectively, anyone could see that Anna's movie is better, and Shane was in fact ripped to shreds by the critics. This whole situation to me is so depressingly amusing because Shane could have made real Hollywood connections if he wasn't unbearable as a person. Anyways, so like I mentioned, this is basically Shane's skit era on YouTube. And then we get to another one of Shane's YouTube eras, which is where he was trying different foods, like DIY, little, like, I don't know, craft things, just typical YouTube trend stuff. And around this time, he came out of the closet after he and his girlfriend, Lisa, broke up. Then he had the beginnings of his collaboration slash vlogging era. He was friends
Shane's
with Drew Munson,
girlfriend?
who played a role in Shane's Not Cool movie that he directed for The Chair. Garrett Watts, who actually met Shane through Tinder, and they stayed friends afterwards, and Trisha Paytas, and they met when she attended a casting call for one of his videos. So these people have been connected with Shane for a really long time. Later on, like years down the line, Shane's new vlog squad became the aforementioned Garrett, Andrew the cameraman, Ryland, who was Shane's boyfriend, now husband, by the way, Ryland's sister Morgan, and they would do spooky vlogs exploring allegedly haunted places and the like. But an era that came like sort of at around the same time, maybe even a little bit before, was Shane's conspiracy videos. Now, Shane's conspiracies became very popular to the point where that's what he became known on the internet for. But this upward momentum for Shane didn't stop there. Oh no. His final form ended up being these documentary style videos, and these videos usually revolved around a particular creator. Eugenia Cooney, Tana Mojo, Jake Paul, Jeffree Star. They were very dramatic, from the editing to the reactions, and they were extremely popular. A lot of them getting around 20 million views, but sometimes receiving even 40 million or 50 million views. That is crazy. The era of when Shane was making vlogs with like Rylan, Morgan, Garrett, and Andrew, along with Shane's documentaries, was the only era of Shane that I was personally around for. Like, I was watching him in that moment. And I'll say it, I had a good time watching those videos before I knew what was going on. It was kind of cool because Shane's video dropping became an event that people look forward to. Like, oh my gosh, the final part of Shane's Jake Paul documentary is coming out today. Like, those were the vibes. But all of this success, it fell apart in a catastrophic way. Let's go back a little bit to Indiana circa 1983. If I had to pinpoint the exact moment where things started to go off the rails, I would say that it was when Shane started becoming friends with Jeffree Star. That caused the planets to align in such a cursed way. It was probably a canon event for all I know, the catalyst for everything that went down. When I was watching his videos in, like I said, the era right before his cancellation, I didn't think he had a sinister vibe. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, tell you that, I had suspicions. I knew something was up. I didn't. I thought everything was fine. However, the same cannot be said about Jeffree. Jeffree's energy is straight up sinister, evil villain type shit. And again, knowing what we do now, I feel like I can start to see why they might get along and why they were maybe drawn to each other. Number one, I think both of them had kind of rough childhoods, tumultuous home life, so they may have felt a kinship in that. Number two, as much as Shane says he is an empath, and that's kind of like a running joke among the people, he does in fact bring that up a lot. He's like, I'm an empath. I just, I feel this urge to care for others and blah, blah, blah. I don't think either of them are very empathetic, and saying that feels wrong because I don't like to make statements like that when I don't know a person, like in my real life, as someone I've interacted with directly. But here's the thing. There is a digital record of both of them being horrible to people, seemingly without a second regard, and exploiting them for clout. In my eyes, that's not something you can do when you're genuinely concerned for another person's emotional well-being. One thing Shane and Jeffree are gonna do is they're gonna scheme. Shane ended up making a documentary, like one of those series about Jeffree. It became really popular, and basically he was trying, like they were both trying to improve Jeffree's image and rebrand him as someone who deserves sympathy as a hard launch to their friendship and business partnership. But you may be asking yourself, rebrand? Well, what was so wrong with his original brand? Oh, girl. First of all, let me just read you the list of his offenses in bullet point form. So Jeffree has perpetuated anti-Semitism, said the N-word and other slurs, has done racist skits, harassed homeless people. Matter of fact, harasses everybody on the internet. He's straight up a bully.
I don't know if
Stereotypes
people
whenever
realize
someone
this,
says anything.
but it's not illegal to be racist, bigot, anti-Semitic. Like, it's not against the law. You can be those things if you want to. I don't think that the left, the youth, understand that. They're like, oh. If someone wants to act that way, that is their prerogative. Nothing you can say or do is going to make a difference. You can cry about it all you fucking want, but at the end of the day, it's not a crime to be an asshole. It's not. So you need to just learn how to get the fuck over it. The problem, it's not a them problem, it's a you problem. You are bothered by something someone else said or did. That has nothing to do with them. That has everything to do with you. So, probably should do something about that. Dude, yeah, the skirt came out really cute. I got more material. I wanted to make more skirts, but I couldn't lay the fabric out to cut it with my animals in the bed. And I don't have a table that I could work on, so just had to duke it out till next time. Listening to this girl's making my brain hurt. All the fucking clutched pearls. My hands are hurting.
Hey you, yes you who have never made anything without a pattern before. You are far more capable of self-drafting than you could ever imagine. You can do this! I kind of figured that there would be interest in a tutorial-ish video for the split-side dress, but I actually wasn't expecting to get to it this soon. Soon. It's been weeks, months. However, I just finished my tier 1 project list, which I've never done before because I usually replenish items on the tier 1 list from the tier 2 list as I finish things. But yeah, for some reason I just managed to blast through the entire thing without replenishing it for the first time, and then I was like, now what? Split side dress tutorial video. That's what. If you have ever seen one of my tutorial videos before, then you know the drill, but for anyone who is new to this concept or this channel, first of all, hello, welcome, I hope you like chaos. Let me go over those lovely disclaimers. I am not an expert sewist. I am not a pattern maker. I barely know what I'm doing on any given day, and I am the global ambassador of winging it and making it work. These videos are tutorial.
Girl, I thought you were having a fucking seizure. It scared me.
Exact measurements or how much fabric you need or really very much specific stuff at all. It's like sewing theory. Yeah. Also, no matter how many times you'll ask for it or scream type the word pattern in the comments of my videos, I'm not gonna make a pattern, y'all. I'm not anytime soon. Like, I never say never, but probably never. But I am going to do my best to show you how to make a split side dress like this one, but not this one because I never make the same thing twice. We are going to make 2 versions of the split side dress in this video, each one different, each one showing different techniques and styles and options, so that hopefully you can come away from this video having an idea of how to make a split side dress that is perfect for you, for your body, for your preferences, for your style. And of course, I have already made tutorial-ish videos on the split side skirt and the split side pinafore, so if this video is sort of lacking in information in certain areas, particularly like the skirt construction, the pocket construction, that's because I've already gone over to that to the best of my ability in those videos, which I will put in the description for you. Also, we're not going to be doing this exact style of bust gathering on the 2 dresses that I'm going to make in this video, which I know a lot of people really liked this. A lot of people said that this was something they'd like to try. I do feel like I kind of explained how I got the measurements for all of that in the video about this dress, basically as well as I could. So if you have any further questions about that, feel free to ask, but yeah, I think I kind of covered that. I mean, speaking of questions, if you have any questions about anything, do feel free to leave those in the comments, because I do try to answer all of them to the best of my ability. I am here for you. I don't know what I'm doing, but I will do my best to open up what's going on in my brain for you, and hopefully it helps. So let us take a look at what we are making today. But first, hold on, give me a second. Let's hear a word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Proven Skin. They're very good hand and how often some skin strives routine. Acne is 80% good. We're moving on. Yay! Also, quick shout out to the person in the comments. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, who told me to put my ironing board at the same height as my sewing table so that I could just spin my chair. I appreciate you so much. Okay, so like I said, we are going to make two dresses. Both of them are going to be split side. Both of them are using that same basic design concept, but one of them is going to be out of woven fabric and one of them is going to be out of knit. Ooh. The woven dress is going to be a maxi length, gathered, and tiered skirt. No circle skirt for once. I know, gasp. And the knit one is going to be a midi length circle skirt. I can't not do at least one circle skirt, y'all. Both of them are going to have those absolutely giant pockets that are a staple of the split side anything, but I do want to play around with different closure types on each of them. This dress, I did a tying closure for the back panel, but I'm thinking for these, I might try to do snap closures on the knit and maybe hook and eye closures on the woven, really just to experiment some more. This is one of those areas that I've gone over a lot more in the previous videos. So in that split side skirt tutorial, I talked about all the different styles of closure methods that you can use, and we went into a few more of them. I am avoiding any form of lace up closures on the dresses just because it seems like it would be more cumbersome to try to lace something when you have the attached bodice. Moving up to the bodice differences, the woven dress is going to have a gathered bodice, but not like this one where the gathering is just right underneath the bust. It's going to be a completely gathered bodice, more like a milkmaid top or a peasant top. That will be attached to a panel waistband and will have those big sashes so you can tie on the front panel, just like with this dress. The woven dress is going to have spaghetti straps, and I'm considering having them actually tie on the shoulders for even more adjustability. Also, the bodice on this one is going to be lined. On the knit one, we're gonna do more of a like regular style of bodice, just more like this one. But since it's knit, we don't have to do any gathering for le boobs, although you still could. If your knit is not super stretchy or you are well endowed and you need a little extra space in there, you could still add darts or gathering to your knit material and give yourself that extra space. I'm thinking of doing a square neckline on this one, because why not? But the bodice is not going to be lined on this one, which means I have to do a neck binding, and I don't actually know how to do a binding on a square neckline. So if it ends up feeling too complex, I might revert to a V-neck or a scoop neck, although complexity has never stopped me from trying things before, so we are also going to put sleeves on this one. Yay! I'm going to stick with those good old butterfly flutter sleeves because those are currently the only kind of sleeves that I've really figured out how to put on any of these like split side or wrap dresses. I would love to experiment with different sleeve types in the future, but right now I don't know how to properly attach those to this kind of dress, so it wouldn't really be a good time to throw that in this video. It's not really tutorial ready, not even tutorial-ish ready. That's what we got. Here are my fabrics. I'm going to be using this purple knit for the knit dress. Did you guess? You're so good. It's not a super like stiff or heavy one. It's pretty light. So yeah, knit is always a toss-up for me on how well it's gonna work out on any given design. Yeah, we shall see. As usual, I've chosen a piece of fabric that I have an absolute buttload of, just so that I won't run out and I won't have to like alter my design or anything. I never like to do that during a tutorial video. However, I am going to measure it this time before I get started and do my best to give you a calculation of how much fabric I used at the end, in case that's helpful. For the woven dress, since it's going to be a 3-tiered skirt, I kind of wanted to use 3 different fabrics. So I did an Instagram poll and you guys selected this very bright and fun combination. I'm really excited about this. This fabric my mother-in-law brought me from Portugal, so it has like those Portugal kind of tiles on it that are so beautiful. It's gonna be bright, it's gonna be fun. Right up my alley. Again, I will do my best to measure all of these first and give you a calculation of how much fabric I used at the end, but I do just want to stress once again that the amount of fabric you need for a project is so dependent on you, on your size, on your skirt length, and on your skirt style. It is going to take way more fabric to make a maxi length circle skirt than a mini gathered skirt. Alrighty, now that I've talked for ages, let's actually make the thing. I'm actually going to start with the knit dress because it's more similar to the one that I've already made, and then we will jump back to the woven dress, and hopefully I will have put chapters on this video. So if you're just interested in one or the other, you can jump around. Note to myself while uploading, please do that. To the cutting table. All right, I'm still trying to figure out lighting and angles in this room, so thanks for bearing with me. So in order to self-draft pretty much any garment, you just have to break that garment into all of the separate flat pieces and then assign your measurements to those flat pieces. That's it. That's all it is. Doesn't that make it sound simple? Also, please keep in mind that all of my drawings are just that. They are drawings by somebody who is not very good at drawing. So they're not like size appropriate to each other or whatever. They're approximations. Let's break down the knit dress into all of its separate pieces. Obviously, we first need the skirt panels, which will be 2 half circles because circle skirt. I drew them as quarter circles because that's typically how you cut them out, folded in half. Moving up from there, we of course need the pockets, 4 pieces, 2 for each pocket. Then we have the front bodice. It's 1 piece, and we only need 1 of them because we aren't lining it. We do know right away though that we are going to need a long rectangle to be the neck binding. We don't need armhole binding because sleeves, and for those I'm doing a variation of like a butterfly sleeve, which is generally a circle that you cut out another circle kind of off-centered in, but we don't have an underside to our armpit hole. Is that called an armscye or armscye? You are getting instruction from such a professional. So instead of cutting out the full circle, I'll cut a teardrop shape. So I have 2 actual ends to my sleeve piece. This is making sense, yes? We also know right away that we need 2 sashes to attach to the front bodice and tie it on. You could do 4 pieces and make the sash lined or double-sided or whatever you want to call it, but I'm just gonna do 2 on this one, I think, and then just hem the edges. I do think that the thinner, I guess, your sashes are, the better they tie into a knot. Okay, I avoided talking about the back bodice yet. That's all we have left, and I left it to the end because I guess it's kind of the most complex part of this specific dress. Not really, but a little. So you might be thinking it's gonna be just like the front bodice. It's just gonna be 1 piece, right? And it very well could be, depending especially on what kind of fabric you're using. So for example, on this dress, the back bodice is just 1 piece. It curves down on the sides and it goes into the ties. But then that 1 piece times 2 because it is lined. However, I don't want to line this knit version. So I could still do the back bodice in 1 piece, but in the front where it connects, there's going to be a lot of stress and pull on that piece of fabric right there. And if it's just 1 layer of, especially this sort of light, very stretchy knit, it's not really going to be able to resist that at all. I would prefer for the area that I'm snapping together here in the front to be at least double layered, possibly also with some interfacing in there, softish interfacing for added stability. I also want my sleeve to end here, but the bodice has to continue all the way to here, and I need a clean edge on the whole thing. Anyway, all that to say, what I've decided to do for this design is make the bodice 2 different pieces. We will have the top bit, which will not be lined and will end right around the armpit area with the end of the sleeve, and then we will have a panel reaching down from there to the waist, tapered at the ends so that it can meet in the front and snap there, and double layered for more stability. I mean, that wasn't really that complex, right? Yeah, no. not complex. It's just a design choice. So let's get some measurements assigned to those flat pieces now. Starting with the circle skirt, you can find circle skirt calculators online, which makes it super, super easy, but it's also really easy to just do it on your own. It's basically your waist measurement divided by pi, 3.14 is plenty, and then divided by 2, and that gives you that radius to measure from the corner of your fabric so that you can get the nice, proper curve with the correct circumference. I'm gonna add a couple inches to my original waist measurement because not only does that give me some seam allowance, but it also gives me just a little bit of overlap on the sides, which I like for the split side design. So instead of 32, I'm gonna do 34. Or 35. Okay, so I ended up with about 5.5 inches as my radius. Let me tell you, I am always rounding this number either up or down. Usually up is safer. Now I just need the length, which I will measure by stepping on the high number end of the measuring tape and then bringing the beginning of the measuring tape up to my waist. You want to make sure to measure this off of where your waistline is going to fall, whether that's natural, high, or low. Then I can crane my neck or look in a mirror or carefully reach down and see what that number is for the length that I want. I'm not super picky about length, especially on circle skirts. I usually just go with whatever fits best on the fabric. But if you are super picky about length, make sure you're adding in some for the seam allowance at the waist and for the hem at the bottom. For the pockets, I measure from the side seams inward at my waistline. Remember that you want this skirt to be adjustable, so if you make your pockets meet in the center, you can't really make your skirt any tighter, you know? I tend to keep the top of my pockets around 6 inches at most, less if I want it to be more adjustable. The pocket length does not matter. Do whatever you want. As long as it's not sticking out from underneath your skirt, you're all good. Unless you want it to be sticking out from under your skirt because that's a design choice, which, you know, that wouldn't be the first time. Same with the width of your pockets at the bottom. It's whatever you want. Go nuts. Sashes. These are going to go from your armpit to your waistline. So you can grab that measurement, but also you can always gather your sash like I did on this dress. So, you know, you don't have to be that particular about the measurement. Do whatever fits. For the length of the sashes, I hold the end of my tape where my side seam starts and wrap it around my back and back to the front because I like my sashes to be able to tie on both sides. Then I do a little bloopy bloopy for the knot and take the number that is right about where I want the ends to fall. Trela! Sleeves. These are another circle, so we need another radius measurement. I'm gonna start by measuring my armhole, arm's eye, like so. Then I'll take that measurement and standing the measuring tape on its side so that it can curve, I'll create the teardrop shape that I want. You can do this on a piece of paper or on top of another ruler because all we really want to know right now is how tall this teardrop is. Now I'll measure right from the top of my shoulder where the sleeve would start down the arm to where I want it to end. Don't forget to add on extra for hemming. And then I'll add that to my teardrop height and divide that number in half. And that is my radius. Okay, onto the bodice. There's no more avoiding it. So let's start with the width. Because this dress is made into panels with the front and the back being disconnected at the side seams, I usually just measure from the side seams rather than measuring all the way around my body and dividing it in half. It's super helpful if you're wearing something that's not super baggy and has side seams at the proper place, because then you can just use those as a guide. So I'm gonna grab my front waist measurement and then my front bust measurement right across that peak area. Now for me, the peak area of my bust is also the same.
She keeps playing with my
under
string.
the arms, where an armhole could end and still be covering a typical bra. So those are the only two measurements that I need for the bulk of the front bodice. We want the height now. From the place on your waist where you want the bodice to end, all the way up to the center of your shoulder, going over your boob so you have that 3D shape included. For the height of the neckline, you can measure up from the waist to where you want the lowest
Mommy, your
part of the
nails are
neckline to
sharp.
fall. Then we can measure the width of our neckline, which I'll usually check both across the front like this and also across the back of the neck like so. Now we need the strap width, which is going to be fairly wide for me because I'm adding the sleeves. So the straps need to go right to like the peak bone right there. I also typically taper those shoulder seams about 1 inch. So they're higher at the neckline, lower at the armpit. And finally, we need our armpit measurement. So again, I'll measure up from the waist to where I want my armhole to end, and then down from my shoulder to where the curve would start. The shape of the curve here is typically where I am winging it. You can do the same thing that we did for the sleeves, measure it, and then stand your measuring tape up to get that nice curve, or you can just guess. Front armholes are typically shaped more like this, And back armholes are typically shaped more like this. That was the front bodice, y'all. We're getting there. We're almost done. We'll get the length for the neck binding after we've actually cut that neckline out because it drastically depends on what shape your neckline is. Back bodice. Starting with that top part, we already know the width of our neckline. And in the back, I usually just go with like 2 to 3 inches deep for a normal neckline style. We already know the width of our shoulder seams and the taper for them. I'll measure around my back to the side seams right at that same place. So peak boob height, but in the back. But I'm actually going to add 1 extra inch on each side because we want the back bodice to curve and lie under the front in a way that gives full coverage. The height of the piece is measured from the center shoulder over the back, and I'm just lining it up with the bottom of my armpit. Again, I can measure my arm.
Girl, you need to go poop.
Or I can just completely wing it based on the little bit of knowledge that I have of armholes. But keep in mind that the total shape of the back bodice is not ending at the side seams like the front bodice is. It's curving all the way around back to the front. So you're not necessarily trying to curve that armhole into a straight line at the bottom end, if that makes sense.
That's what happens to
You
me.
want
I
to
get in the
continue
zone.
underneath the front bodice. For the panel that's
And like
attaching
I
to the
just
top
want
of
to
the back bodice, I'm going to use the measurements from my front bodice, particularly that side measurement to the armhole. That'll be the height of this panel. But also I'm going to add an extra inch because my back bodices are always a little bit too short. Then we know the top measurement because it'll be the same as the bottom of the upper back bodice it's attaching to. So we just need that bottom measurement, which is my full waist measurement plus any overlap needed depending on how you're planning to do your closure. Since mine is going to snap, I'm going to need at least like 1 inch of overlap, maybe more if I want more adjustability. I also need enough height there to put a snap. So I'll make mine 2 inches tall. And then we've got another curve here, so yep, we're winging it again. All right, so we have fully assigned measurements. The hard part is over, except you're gonna hate me. Seam allowance. I mentioned it sometimes, I didn't mention it other times. Yeah, I am absolutely terrible because I automatically include seam allowance in a lot of my measurements, and then I just don't in other measurements. So once I finish drafting something out, I always have to look back over it and be like, did you add seam allowance to everything or to nothing? You know, it's got to be like one of those two. So whether you have just written in all of your measurements around the pieces, or you've drafted it out on paper, or you've drafted it straight onto the fabric, this is the time when you need to go back and make sure that you have either done everything with seam allowance, whatever your preferred seam allowance is, or you've done everything without seam allowance with the knowledge that you will add that seam allowance as you are actually cutting. I prefer to do it with seam allowance because I will 100% forget to add it while cutting out. I don't have the brain for that. But at this point, regardless of which drafting method you've done, you are ready to transfer these flat designs onto your fabric and start cutting them out. I often do that just with pins, especially when it's a dark knit fabric like this. I will literally just lay this out and place pins to guide me where to cut. Have I mentioned how much I wing it? You all know. You know. But if you've done paper patterns, cut those out. Use those as your guidance. That's what patterns are for. If you're using a fabric that you can easily draw on, you can use the back side of the fabric, or you can just use like a heat erasable pen like I normally do. Draw your design straight onto the fabric. That works too. We do whatever we want here. Yeah, let's go for it. Okay. I changed because it's actually kind of too chilly outside to be wearing that dress. Also, I made tahini shortbread. I love that on camera. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then I literally turn off the camera and walk away, and it's like hours later when I actually come back and do it. Oh God, the cricket is back. He lives in our wall, and I've discovered that slamming the door will get him to shut up. Anyway, what were we doing? All right, so I am gonna start with the skirt panels. That means I am unfolding my fabric because we're going to need the entire width to get the length of the skirt. Yeah, so I'm going to fold it this way. My spinach puffs. So you're folding over the length that you need. So that 5.5 inches plus my 25 inches of skirt. Whatever that measurement is for you is how long you need folded over. I did too much. That's still too much. Half of the stuff I edit out of videos is just me trying to fold fabric and get it to lay flat. Okay. So then we mark out both our waist radius and our hem radius using our measurements. Yes, yes. All right, and we cut it out. I throw a few pins in that to hold it together and hold it flat, because now we're gonna refold our fabric, toss this one on top, and cut it out again. All right, skirt done. I'm gonna get one of the sleeves out of this piece that I had left over. I don't know, it was no longer attached. So I need an 11-inch radius circle. So I have folded the fabric into quarters, so I can do that same thing like we did on the circle skirt. You just mark your radius, cut it out on the quarter, and it unfolds into a full circle, like so. So with that circle folded in half, I can mark my sleeve length, which was the 12 inches. And then in the remaining 10 inches, I can just kind of wing it on that teardrop. It'll be fine. Looks like that. And now I need a second one of these. So I like to try to use up as much of like the scrap pieces of fabric that I have as possible. So I think I have enough here to get one pocket piece out. We're gonna go for it. Perfect. Yeah, I'll often use just whatever piece of fabric I have to cut out my first pocket piece, and that determines how big it actually is. And then you just trace it. I like to do bodices on the fold, just so that they're even. One thing I should mention is if you are using a knit like me, you can kind of choose whether you're going to be making everything to exactly your measurements or making it all a little bit smaller so that it is intended to slightly stretch. Most of the time when we're wearing knit, it is supposed to slightly stretch as we wear it. So if you make everything to perfectly fit your measurements, your knit material is just going to be kind of sitting on you, which could also be fine and could be super comfortable and will allow for more growth in the future. But that is just up to you. So you can always kind of knock like an inch or so off of your measurements, just so that you do get that slight amount of stretch in there. This is all very dependent on how stretchy the stretch material you're using is. And this is where we just have to try things and keep playing around and do it again and again. And we get better every time. If it is at least big enough to fit you, it's not gonna be bad. Okay, we're going with the square neckline on the front bodice. I think I have figured out, by which I mean I looked it up, how to bind a square neckline. We'll see how that goes. Here is what I ended up with. I'll slap all the measurements and everything on there, and you can pause and, I don't know, take them if you want. I'm assuming we're all different measurements, so I don't know how much my measurements really help you, but I will give them to you anyway. And that is with all of my seam allowances added, so good to note. Okay, for the sashes, I'm going to cut them out so that the length of the sash is in the less stretchy direction, because ultimately, when you're tying that around you, you don't want to be able to pull the sashes and stretch the fabric a lot. You just want a little bit of stretch there. You need it to have some stability. And like I said, you don't really have to worry all that much about this measurement here, as long as it is at least as big as the measurement. This is bigger, so as long as it's bigger, you can just gather it however much you want. Make it easy on yourself. All right, so the only thing I have left is that neck binding. I usually cut mine out 2 inches tall because I'm overcautious. And then for the square neckline, I need one piece to go here and the other piece goes all the way around. Everyone says do 80% of your neck measurement. Frankly, I have not yet nailed a neck binding, so don't listen to me on this. Let's move on to sewing it together. Finally! Okay, it is the next day because the level of information dumped in these tutorial-ish videos wears me out, but I am refreshed and ready to go. Oh, and I forgot to mention yesterday that I measured and I had started out with about 5 1/4 yards of this fabric, and by the end I had about 1 yard left, but I definitely did not cut things out in like a fabric preservation method. I was a little haphazard, so do with that information what you will. I am gonna start at the top and kind of work my way down on this dress, which, you know, there's more than one way to put together a dress. I like to switch it up with all of my projects so it stays fresh. And as if they heard me turn on the camera, the neighbors are doing yard work. Woo! I am gonna start by hemming the sleeves. Circular hemming, yay, our favorite thing. I just do the smallest rolled hem or baby hem or whatever possible, and if it ends up having a wrinkle or a pleat on the inside, it's the inside. As long as it looks flat and smooth on the outside, I don't really care. Also, I do not have thread in this color, so I'm gonna use very light purple and pretend it was on purpose. It was a design choice. Okay, That thread is really, really bright. Yeah, I take it back. I'm gonna use a dark brown thread because that actually blends into a dark purple pretty nicely. Okay, now we're doing it. All right, so I have my front bodice and the top part of my back bodice. I'm gonna stick them together, right side to right side, and sew the shoulder seams. Zip. Also, I don't tend to do seam finishes when I sew in knit because I don't have a serger and I don't really care that much. But through this whole thing, you should be finishing your seams as you prefer. So we got that, and you can already be trying it on and checking things this entire time. Oh, look. I wore purple to put purple on top. Like I didn't want you to see it. All right, I pressed those seams open, and now we're gonna do the binding. And this is not a tutorial in how to bind a neckline, particularly because I've never done a square one before. So if you're not sure about that, I highly recommend looking up like an actual real tutorial video on it. There's plenty of them. All right, we've got a binding. Genuinely did not expect that to turn out as well as it did. So now I am going to sew the sleeve onto the armhole right here. Theoretically, it should reach right from one side to the other, but if my calculations are slightly off, which it looks like they are, big surprise, I'll just add a slight bit of gathering right on the top, and that'll just make my sleeve have a little more flouncy floofy anyway. So I've put some gathering stitches right in the top of my sleeve, just about that much. Then I will match right side to right side, starting from each end and working inward, and I'll gather up the extra material of the sleeve until it fits perfectly, and then sew it down. And don't forget to leave seam allowance on the side that's going to be sewn to the sash, like so. Now that we have our basic bodice, I'm going to add sashes. Of course, they need to be hemmed first, and if you're doing double layered sashes, you would just be sewing them together inside out and then turning them right side out. Since I cut mine out a little bigger at the attaching point than they need to be, I'll sew some gathering stitches across that line and then pin it onto the side of the bodice, gathering it down to the proper size as I do so. Once that is sewn on, we're good to go. I haven't been top stitching much on this piece since my thread is the wrong color and this knit is not going to love top stitching, but I did add top stitching here just to strengthen the connection points since that's where a lot of the stress is going to be. Next, we're going to add the lower section of the back bodice. So I'm starting by putting a small piece of interfacing on the ends of one piece of the lower back bodice to strengthen the stress point. That's totally up to you if you want to do that. Then I'm going to create a sandwich with one side of the lower bodice, right side up, the upper bodice, right side down, and the other side of the lower bodice, right side down. Basically, we're sewing all the way around those two lower bodice pieces inside out, everything except the waistline edge. But we're attaching the rest of the bodice in the center so that when we turn the lower pieces right side out, it looks like this. And we have a complete bodice. At this point, you should definitely try it on. Hopefully you've been testing it all the way through the process more than I have, but now you should try it on without anything underneath, like you'd actually be wearing it. So you can make sure everything is lying correctly and you can mark where your closure method should go. Remember when I said that if you're using knit, you have to remove some length from all your measurements to compensate for the stretch? Well, I did not do that. It's honestly my biggest problem whenever I'm self-drafting anything made of knit, just forgetting to make it smaller so that it can stretch. But you know what? Knit is also super forgiving, so I am okay with this fit. I have a whole lot of overlap on that back panel closure, way more than I intended, but that just means that the whole thing is super adjustable. The only thing I technically should fix, but probably still won't, is the shoulder seam, which could be taken up a little just so that the weight of the sleeves doesn't drag the neckline outward like it's doing now. But now all I have left is hand sewing the snaps onto the back bodice for the closure, and then the bodice is finished and we can move on to the skirt. Take it away! I've eaten way too many of these already. And of course, I've largely covered the pocket making and attaching to the skirt process in a previous video. So suffice it to say here, I'm going to attach the pockets to each other, to themselves, yeah, and then to the back panel of the skirt. Once I got my pockets added to that back skirt panel, I sewed gathering stitches across the top because you know I made it too big somehow. This is a really common occurrence for me though. I tend to be super lax on the precision when it comes to cutting out a circle skirt waistband,